right, guys, this is part 4 of Berkeley Exposed. August 27th, 2017, when Berkeley PD decided they were going to stand down and let people get hurt, potentially let them get killed. What we're going to be covering in this episode, again, just like part 3, I have American Freedom Keepers President Francis Marion, who is going to be contributing to this as well. We're going to be telling you about the events of the day, essentially how we connected with the police in the morning. We've connected with the police, for a couple days or so. Francis talked to the police, made plans. We went scouting. We were followed. We were harassed. We were attacked. We rescued people. We got attacked while rescuing people. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff here. So I'm going to go ahead and just let Francis kick it off, talking about his contact with the police and the events that led up.
So the first thing that we did was, on these missions, we generally try to contact police ahead of time. And Berkeley PD is notoriously one of the more difficult to work with. I contacted a Detective Peter Lee, who informed me. I contacted him, I believe, Thursday was the first time I made direct phone contact with him. And he informed me that he would be in the command center for that day, for Sunday, August 27th, and that he had direct access to the commander for the day. We relayed information back and forth about expected threats, numbers that were expected to come, what were the expected activities. Again, just like in Chrissy Field, we discussed who we were, what we were there to accomplish, what we were there to avoid and help prevent, how we would work with police, communicate with law enforcement, help to evacuate and remove any people that would be, quote, with us, all of this. So we talked on Thursday, we talked again on Friday, talked again on Saturday. And then Sunday morning, the morning of the event, we spoke specifically, giving him our prep time, when we were expected to arrive, how many people, where we were going to park, what direction we were going to be headed into the park. I made contact with him throughout the morning as we had contact with others that were already at the park. We went into the park to give it a visual in the morning. First thing, relayed information about concerns with the barriers, the grassy area of the park not being barricaded from the street, which was originally told to me on Thursday that it would be completely surrounded, that there'd be 2 separate areas. So that was the first bit of information that came up wonky, that came up different than what was relayed. So as the morning went on and we got into Berkeley, we made contact again with Detective Lee. By that time, there was contacts coming out of the park. This was approximately 11 to 11:30. There were already contacts coming out of the park due to the violence that was erupting and Antifa and other anarchist groups that were moving into the grass and taking over the park. Spoke to Detective Lee on the phone. Detective Lee confirmed that Antifa was taking over the entire park. He then informed me that Berkeley PD was pulling out. And I questioned him on them pulling out. I asked him specifically if he was telling me that Berkeley police was vacating the park and was not going to be there to visually enforce the law and to protect people. He again confirmed, told me that he apologized for the decision, that he knew that that wasn't what I wanted to hear. Tried to explain the decision. I tried to continue the conversation at that point onto logistics, because we were getting reports. We had 2 people that we had direct contact with that were trapped. One near the police station or at the police station, and one just a block or so away from the park. And a block or so away from the park was Ashton, and she was trapped between the park and the violent protesters, and then lines of police that would not let her pass. As I relayed this information to Detective Lee, he continued to tell me that that couldn't be possible. Meanwhile, on a phone in my other hand, I was literally talking to Ashton and hearing her tell me that she was trying to walk past police lines, that they told her to turn around and go the other way, and if she went the other way, she would wind up back in the park. So she was stuck. At that time, I was not terribly pleased with the information coming from Detective Lee. We essentially were lied to. I asked I've been to Berkeley 2 times before. I was there for April 15th for the Battle of Berkeley there, and again on April 27th. I've seen Berkeley PD operate in 2 different modes, 2 different functions. And we were told specifically, I was told specifically, that I would see a very different Berkeley PD, that they would not be allowing any intermingling like this, that they would not be allowing any masks in the park, specifically that they would not allow any weapons, sticks, bats, skateboards, billy clubs, full Pepsi. I asked specifically about Pepsi cans, wine bottles, all of these things, water balloons, random containers of unknown liquids, because they've been known to be mixing chemicals and acids on site, also mixing other chemical irritants. I asked specifically about all of these things and was told very directly, no, we're going to stop all weapons. Well, as you can see from many of the videos, there was no problem with Antifa getting bats, sticks, skateboards, mace, masks, everyone in masks. So as we continued throughout this day, and as you'll see in this video, you'll see evidence of all of the things that we were walking into, expecting a police department to do their job, uphold their duty, protect the citizens, uphold their oath to the Constitution. And this was another example of Berkeley PD kowtowing to the far left, kowtowing to the extremists and the anarchists, and basically following a political agenda to allow for free speech to be squashed in these cities, for free speech to be silenced if it doesn't agree with the agenda of the local politicians in place. This is another prime example. This is an example of what people and citizens have to stand up against, have to stand up to voice their feelings, to voice their concerns to their local politicians, that this cannot happen in another American city.
So there were some other things that went on as well. One of which, at 9 o'clock in the morning-ish, we decided that we were going to do a drive-by and go check out the park. We were going to check out exactly how everything was laid out so we could definitely solidify our mode of entry and where the cops were, what the crowds looked like, and we could get comfortable with what was going to happen that day. While we were doing that, before we even got to the park, we started getting followed by a taxi. He starts talking to us. He starts yelling at us. He starts saying, "Go home. You guys are a bunch of racists. Where's your flag?" Stuff like that. You guys will see it in the video.
Nobody wants you in the city, bro.
That's cool.
That's
all right.
right.
Hey, we sat down there for hours, had a lot of good conversations with people, no violence, no issues, not until some people showed up that wanted to find the issues.
My
so
city, we don't want you here.
that's my city too, bro. I got a lot of family here.
I live here.
Hey, it's America though.
Yeah. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. There you go. There's the license plate, and I think y'all got the you got the cab company. So there you go. You can call into that cab company, and there's a license plate on the driver. Feel free to.
Eventually, we got to a red light. We went in the left turn lane. He was in the right lane going straight. He didn't have a choice. He had to go forward. As he pulled up, as he went straight, he pulls off to the side of the road, gets out of his car. Another car pulls in right behind him. He gets out, walks over to the other car, starts pointing at us. By about that time, we were able to turn left. We start going down another road. Lo and behold, right behind us is a little Datsun pickup and following us. So I take another left, I take a right, I take a left, I take a right. All of a sudden, as we turn, he stops at the intersection, takes our picture, stares at us for a while, and waits for us to turn again. And then he drives off. So this, we already were not very comfortable with going in there because obviously they remembered our car from Chrissy Field. They knew exactly who we were. All we were doing was driving down the street. And we were already jumped on, people following us and harassing us before we even get to the park. Now here's the other thing. So while Francis was sitting on the phone with the officer Peter Lee, telling him, "Hey, why'd you guys stand down? We have people inside," so on and so forth, I get a phone call from Kieth. The guy that was curb stomped, the videos that went viral. Yes. So he was working for me that day. He was out. He was covering the events. He was doing all this stuff. He'd be calling me all day. Okay, this is what I'm doing. This is where we're at. This is what's going on. This is how the police have been acting. He was the one that told me that the police pulled out. Keith was sitting there telling me on the phone that as soon as Antifa decided that they were going to get a little riled up, that's when all of a sudden the cops just disappeared. So about the same time that Joey, Tiny, and Pete all got attacked in the park and they finally made it through the police line, that was right when Keith got attacked. I didn't know any of this was going on, of course, because I'm trying to find out where people are. I'm trying to find out how to get people out. While Francis is on the phone with Peter Lee, we have people coming by, taking our pictures. They're watching us. They're calling. They're making phone calls. We're starting to get pretty nervous, and it's time to go. So just about the time that we were ready to get out of there, we find out that somebody needs an evac, which, lo and behold, that would be Ashton. She was first. We finally figure out where Ashton is. We pull up, we pick her up, she gets in the car. All of a sudden we get another call. We have to pick up another person. So we start heading that direction towards the other person. And then as soon as we hook up with that one person, there's 2 more people that needed a ride, so they jump in our vehicles too. At about that time, I get a phone call from Kieth saying that he's been attacked. He says he's, hurting real bad. He can barely walk. He can barely see. He doesn't know what's wrong with him, but he knows he's not okay. So he tells us where he's at, and he's at a Shell station about a mile or so away from the whole park, from all of the rioting, from the whole event. We take off. We're going to the Shell station. We roll in. Fortunately, we had Todd Kelsey with us, who's also a nurse. He jumps out immediately, runs over to Kieth, starts checking him out, and as we're checking Kieth out, we start noticing that there's people coming around the Shell station. Again, we're talking like a mile away here. People are taking our pictures. People are looking at us. People are making phone calls. So we separate a little bit. We have a couple of our guys drive Kieth in his truck back to his hotel, and while we're waiting for them to come back, well, this next video right here, you'll be able to see exactly what happened.
Out later if there's confirmation for Steve Bannon.
Not sure. I'm actually not sure myself.
It's just a rumor.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll be in touch. Looks like we'll get an update for you because we're going to head over. Hey, on the corner. Shut the... Sorry. Folks start to move in and notice that we're here.
We should probably ask him about Yvette. How Bale's doing for her. Bill?
Did she get arrested?
Yeah, she's still a middle school.
Negative.
Get in the car.
I can't get in, guys. You really think you're motherfuckers, huh? Fuck you, little bitch. Get the fuck out. Fucking scared? You should be scared. Well, how even got big files out there when you were out there with that white supremacist, homie? What's up?
We're hungry
Well, you
for
got Russ in there,
supremacists.
huh? You got
We're
Russ
real
in
hungry
there?
for supremacists.
We're not.
And there's more of us.
You guys roll with fucking racist motherfuckers? Y'all come from Washington?
That was a threat, but okay.
That's typical. Typical. And that's how fast shit happened. I mean, they literally just showed up on the corner. As soon as we noticed them, immediately came to the car. It's like, why? We're white supremacists? Why? Because I have an American flag on my hat?
As you guys can see, all we were doing was just hanging out. We literally just finished doing an interview with Ashton, asking her exactly how it was in the park, what she saw, what she experienced, and stuff like that. We were waiting for our other rig to get back from dropping Kieth off at his house, and bam. All of a sudden, here's these thugs. They're coming up. All they want to do is fight. They got weapons. At least one of them looked like he had a pair of brass knuckles, but all they wanted to do was fight. That's what we're dealing with right now in America, guys. This is the people who believe that they actually run this country because they're not afraid of the law because the law is a joke now. The law is just a suggestion now with some of these people. They already know through experience that the United States has a catch and release program for everything, illegals and or criminals who go out and assault people, damage property, or do whatever. How many people actually get charged with an actual crime or spend even more than a few hours in jail after one of these riots? It is time for the United States to actually become a nation of laws. I am so glad that we have somebody like President Trump who's like, hey, so the whole catch and release program with illegals? Not anymore. That is a crime. They committed a crime. They're going to pay for that crime and they're going to go home. They're going to go back to where they came from. They are not allowed to come into this country and live here and not do it the right way. Now, the local municipalities need to be doing the exact same thing. You commit a crime, you go to jail. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You commit a crime, you get the penalty for the crime. You destroy people's property, you get charged for that. You assault people, you get charged for that. Every single one of these Antifa douchebags should all be charged with assault with a deadly weapon. And they are being witnessed by the police. The police are literally sitting there watching them do it. 13 people were arrested in Berkeley. Should have been about 1,300 people arrested in Berkeley.
Free thought for free people.